Hello world! Curses of madness be upon you all, for live fighters. The first ship has finally arrived at its destination, and oh boy is it glorious here. Let's pull back the veil and take the first step into this final chapter. The thing about mirages, they show you what you want to see, but the reality is that it was never there in the first place. Mirages are kind of jerks like that. Turns out, so am I. But let me back up. What do you say, Mom? You'll help? You're feeling up to it? I never asked Mom about Dr. Renee Blasé. Oh, anything can trigger an episode, and I didn't want to risk her health by discussing her time working for our former corporate overlords. But she's having a good week, so I take the chance. It's about the work you used to do with the IMC, and that's what led me to door number 2. I stay up all night going through Mom's old files. Handbooks, directories. Man, she's lived a hell of a life. I devour 3 large pizzas over the course of 10 hours, by myself. A personal best, thank you very much. And somewhere around the pepperoncinis and pineapple, I find her. Hello, Dr. Blasé. I'm practically flying as I race over to her place and ring the bell. I wish I could see her face when she opens this, but I have somewhere else to be. A delivery's about to arrive at a warehouse, and someone's got to sign for it. The Tin Man apparently spends every day by the dumpster where he found Ash, waiting for her to return. Poor bastard. But it made it easy for me to sneak in and leave him a surprise. Robots don't sneeze, or care about bugs. I had the right gift, just the wrong recipient. Rampart was right. I heard, but I wasn't listening. You were right, except I do know when you were born. Happy birthday. And now, so do you. It doesn't erase how I treated her, but it's a start. And just like that, I have a birthday. And I'm dying to know what that H stands for. I'm gonna go with happy. Simulacrums suck. Let's go shoot things. Your BFF. I have pissed people off before. That's pretty relatable. Usually I just act all self-debuckled, self-depreciate. I talk crap about myself to get out of hot water. Turn everything into a joke. But I'm not a joke. And neither are the people I care about. Maybe it's time I stop making them feel like they are. Maybe it's time I stop being the punchline. Wit? What are you... Hang on. Is that... a bouquet of wrenches? Change is scary. Again, pretty damn relatable, buddy. Look at that gorgeous face, man. But when the universe reminds you what you could lose if you don't change, that'll really send a chill up your spine. Time to grow up. Stop being the guy who mouths off, and be the man who shows up. To hell with fear. Take that first step. You never know where it'll lead you. Damn this chapter! God damn this fucking chapter! I'm getting a lump in my throat, man. This is an exceptional way to close out the first ship. Like, exceptional. Mirage has really put himself in a pickle and pulled himself out of it incredibly well. Like, his flaws had really presented themselves over most all of the early chapters up to last chapter of the first ship. And this chapter he was able not only to redeem himself, but he found a tangible way to do so for all the characters he pissed off. He managed to find Wraith's birthday. He managed to connect back with his mother on like a proper level for someone else. He got Rampart a bouquet of wrenches. He gave Pathfinder the flowers. He realized what he'd done wrong. He listened. And that's fantastic. That is gorgeous. This is an amazing way to close out the first ship. I do personally feel that this chapter maybe came a little too soon. Me being me, I like conflict, right? I maybe would have preferred personally for the tension that was left from last chapter to carry on into Season 7, so that we started off Season 7 with this sort of high tension, complicated interpersonal relationship sort of status, right? And you wouldn't change this chapter at all. At all. I would just have put it a little later. But that's me. And even with that in mind, it does sort of feel like Mirage's character growth, because he grew so much in this chapter. He even started to realize his own flaws and try to push past them for himself. Never mind other people. Other people are obviously important to it as well. And it's so just perfectly executed. The time that we could have had, sort of seeping in that tension a bit, or taking a bit more time, or another event to really kick it into Mirage's head, that this is what he needed to do. Maybe personally that would have been better, but I wouldn't change this chapter for the world, man. This was fantastic. It's also absolutely gorgeous. Like, the prior two community-produced comics, which have all been fantastic, incidentally. Like, each artist has had a very distinct style. Like, KKX Hiroki was very shonen style. Genta's piece from last week was almost like shoujo-esque, with the Mirage looking like almost effeminate in certain panels, and I really enjoyed that style. But this chapter, the really thick outlines and the sort of leaning slightly more towards realism, I think. It's obviously still very stylized, but it feels maybe a bit more Western in its overall style. I'm not an artist, so I couldn't really tell you, to be honest, but Mirage is gorgeous. Like, that is one attractive man. This week's piece was done by Ronnie or Ryanello or Rioneo. I don't know exactly how to pronounce their name, but hats off to you. Apparently they're a huge Mirage stan, and you can see it. You can hear me tearing up about it. You can see the love that went into this chapter. You can genuinely see it. And that's cool as fuck, man. I don't think there's really much anything else to say. I think it's incredibly well presented. We got some little lore drops, like Mirage's mum having worked for the IMC. I think that was maybe, like, hinted at before. I always took it that their family was on the militia side of things, but with the way that Mirage calls them their old corporate overlords, with the box of Civil War stuff that's also seen among his mum's old collections, suggests to me that there might have been maybe a defection, and they did join the militia. Obviously, I don't know for sure. I can't remember exactly why I thought that they were on the side of the militia, right? But Mirage using that connection to reaffirm his relationship with his mother, to then look into his own past a bit more, to then find the kind of key information that Wraith would need to feel better about herself. It's almost, being Mirage, he might have done it to an extent to search for forgiveness, but the way this is presented, I don't think so. And that's the kind of growth that this guy needed. He's becoming a more solid being now. He doesn't have to hide behind the Mirages so much anymore. I think he still should, and I think he still needs to an extent. And I think that's a character flaw that can come up again, and should. But hey man, this kind of growth, when you're able to tangibly actualize on that sort of character development, and again, character growth, he has changed. Mirage has learned and changed and grown from this. When you're able to, like I say, get in touch with your mum, find Wraith the exact kind of information that she needs to feel more like a whole person again. To go to Rampart and realize that, again, you fucked up, and bring her something that she actually needs and wants. A bouquet of wrenches. I think the bouquet of wrenches is fucking hilarious. And then Pathfinder, the fact that he even went to Path, that was one I actually sort of wasn't expecting. and he gives him all the flowers. And that's actually kind of perfect for Pathfinder. That sort of aesthetic beauty there. Yeah, this chapter's fantastic. I think it's incredibly well put together. It's been incredibly well drawn. Again, super hats off to Ryanello Rianeo. Their work on this chapter is just fantastic. I've sort of put myself at a loss for words. Again, I do sort of feel there could have been a little more time between last chapter and Mirage being called out before leading to this. Like an event that actually pushes him more to listen. Not that last chapter wasn't enough. But yeah, it just felt to me like it was something that was going to carry on and seep in that tension for a bit more. And maybe that would have been better. But maybe that's just me. But again, when you're able to produce such an emotive chapter like this, then again, I'm vocally like cracking up, right? Give a fuck. Who cares? This was fucking awesome. I am hugely proud of the community artists that have managed to get involved with Apex to produce these. It's obviously all come about maybe because of the circumstances of Season 6, how they had to change their original draft to what this season's story was going to be, and how they've managed to adapt it. They ended up with some time left over, which has given them the opportunity to go to these community artists and really show off their work, because their work is fantastic. Like, I do really like the Dark Horse produced comics from the earlier chapters, from the first 7 chapters. I thought that was all fantastic as well. But Mirage here has, like, never looked so fucking handsome. And I think that's almost kind of an aesthetic importance for this chapter. He's becoming a more whole, a more actualized being here. I wish I could be like half the man he is at times, you know? So I feel that while the first ship has maybe had a much slower pace overall than the Broken Ghost, I've made a few videos sort of discussing this, and I've said this several times. Everything that goes through the first ship is going to become more and more important as we go. And this chapter just wouldn't have worked without the setup that it had. Pacing is important. This is my issue with everyone wanting to go straight to Revenant's head, kill him, and stop rushing character arcs. It fucking pisses me off. You're wasting characters, guys. I'm not talking to the writers here, I'm talking to areas of the community who just seem to be there like, why haven't we continued the Broken Ghost? It's got a tangible end goal, it's the only thing I can think of. Kinda pisses me off. This is way more fucking important. And this is way more actually worth your time. Never mind that something like with Revenant and Loba, we should be exploring both of their actual feelings and coming to terms with revenge before we actually get to killing him. Or maybe we decide just not to, right? Compared to any of that bullshit, give me more of this. Give me more stuff like this, where we're actually getting to see who these people are. I made a point in my first ship versus the Broken Ghost video that the heart and soul of sci-fi isn't interdimensional robot waifus and finding heads in a jar. It's about people. And compared to the other franchise that I cover that is kind of being shown up at the moment by this, that's something big that's missing altogether. Never mind also having basically no plot as well. By comparison, this single chapter of the first ship has made me feel more than most any of the Overwatch comics that I've ever talked about. To the writers of Apex Legends, Manny, Tom, Alex, I think are the 3 main writers. I'm sure there's a 4th one who's been hired recently. You guys have kicked it out of the park with this. This is some exceptional, personally motivated, emotive, character-focused storytelling. This is brilliant. I could just sit here for another while and just spiel off into nothingness about how this makes me feel and what it's actually worth. Like I said, change is scary, and that's pretty fucking relatable. I've pissed people off in the past. I probably still piss people off to this day, to be honest. We could all learn something from Mirage here. He's pushed himself past his own flaws to a degree And for his own sake, he feels better about himself now. That's what actualizing yourself does for you, right? Like, I haven't felt as good about myself until recently when I started getting back into making videos, or when I wrote pieces for the 31 Days of Apex challenge back over like a month or two ago. Doing those things to actually push myself into being a more like whole being, it's fucking worth it, man. Remember what you could lose if you don't change. That's a pretty impactful statement for the state of the world right now, actually. It is time to grow up. But always remember that the child inside you is important as well. Look after them, nurture them. To hell with fear, motherfuckers! Yeah, the dialogue for this piece is incredibly well written on like a structural and sort of like micro level. The paneling is excellent, everything gets a lot of time to breathe and show off how fucking gorgeous this man is. But that's just the first step. Like I said, I think Mirage's character flaws should persist to an extent. Like, growth isn't the end. Change isn't always absolute. It's a process. Like, don't think that you should just instantly become whatever anybody wants or needs you to be. Even yourself, right? That's fucking hard. I think you can see why I'm so emotional about this chapter. Take your own time, but try to take that first step. The second and the third and the fourth and every one that comes after it only comes easier. I think we can all kind of learn a lot from this chapter, and that's really fucking cool, man. Like I said, the heart and soul of sci-fi is people, and Apex Legends has really fucking nailed that this chapter. Again, Ryanello's work, again, I don't know how to pronounce that, it really brings out the emotion in all this. The words on their own are fantastic, but seeing that final smile is, it's kind of inspiring, man. I hope that you're as teared up as I am. Or that you can take something from this as well. I'd like to think that we all can. That this is so much more worth our time. And we can genuinely relate to this. I can't relate to someone's head in a jar that I want to blow up. I don't have that. Am I occasionally a bit of a shit? And do I need to change to better myself sometimes? Fuck yeah. And that's a way greater message if you ask me. So, with that, before I just full on like break down, this has been the final chapter, apparently the final chapter of the first ship. While I have made my point about maybe the conflict could have sat for a little longer before we came to this chapter, it's probably actually good on an overall sort of pacing sense that we've allowed Season 7 to start kind of afresh. That when Horizon comes into things, we've had the setup with Ash through the first ship as well. Again, that's pretty damn important. The first ship has been setting us up for a lot of things to come. And it means that once we hit Season 7 and Horizon launches, we have everything that we need. There's so much here that we have to build off. And it's only going to become more and more and more evident as we go. Just like steps of change, right? So, I'm going to take the first step myself here and shut the fuck up. Thank you for staying with me. I honestly hope that you've enjoyed this final chapter of the first ship, and I hope that any of you who... I know there's a lot of people who haven't enjoyed this season's story as much as last season's. I hope this kind of shuts you up. Nah, I'm joking. I hope that this makes you feel better about it all. Like I said, I'm a bit of a shit, right? I kind of just proved that. So, take a step and improve. Look at things for their own merit or for their own intent. Continuing the Broken Ghost straight up as it was wouldn't have been worth it compared to this, personally. So, a huge thank you to the Apex writers, the community artists, for providing us with such glorious food. I am so ready for as much ice cream as I can consume. With that, I've been Euclidean Vision. the emotional support. Feeling pretty fucking emotional right now. I hope you're doing the same. Take care of yourselves out there, teammates. And may the glorious light of best girl, or best boy, shine within you. Bye bye.